Hello and welcome to the first installment of Ben Reading. Through a cosmic coincidence, eons and eons in the making, two Bens have come to work at one library, the Rockport Public Library, in Rockport, Maine. We think that's pretty astounding. Do you think that's ever happened before, Ben?
I don't think so, and I don't think that there's a way to prove it either.
There isn't a way to prove it, so you should take our word for it and understand that we're the only two Bens working together as librarians, specifically in the Rockport Public Library. Now, as such, we've decided to do something with this. We're going to talk about what we've been reading, and we're going to put it out there for everybody. We're going to let you decide what we read next, and we're going to hopefully have a little fun. So, without further ado, Ben, what have we been reading?
Well, Ben, we just finished reading Solo, which is the latest James Bond novel to come out. It's written by William Boyd, and it is published by HarperCollins and also Ian Fleming Publications Limited.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got his own publishing wing. This book is a period piece.
Yeah, it's definitely a period piece.
Yep.
This is not modern Bond.
No, it's 1969. James Bond is 45 years old, and he is sent to West Africa to basically single-handedly stop a civil war.
Which sounds like typical Bond.
Yes, it does.
I mean, this is not outside his repertoire.
No, absolutely not. So, I've read a few James Bond books before this.
This is my first Bond book. I've never read any. I am a fan of the movies,
Yep.
So, I had those expectations going in.
Yep. So, I've read a few, the originals by Ian Fleming. Casino Royale and Moonraker are the other two that I've read. And so I think the big difference here is that in Casino Royale, it's a very Cold War paranoia going on. James Bond is very paranoid about everything and everyone. He leaves hares, locked indoors, and if he sees one missing, he knows that something is afoot. In Solo, James Bond is more OCD, kind of out of spite.
I would agree with that. He sort of has his focus elsewhere.
Yeah, I would say on fashion and food.
Yes, specifically food and the drinks. There's a lot of drinking and smoking.
A lot of drinking and smoking. Tuskers.
Snake boom.
And snake booms.
Snake booms.
Yep. But that being said, in this book, Bond is as good at interior decorating as he is taking out a handful of guys at a mansion.
And he does deliver a powerful judo chop.
Yes, he does.
So when I was looking at this book, as in reading this book, I found that its strengths were also its weaknesses. Bond was extremely Bond, and that was where sort of all the fun parts came from. His Bondiness with the food and the women and the suave and just sort of the way Bond swims through life was beautiful. Mm-hmm. The scenes where he said, Bond, James Bond, it was priceless. But those also seem to be the weaknesses for me because Bond was very, very Bond at a lack of sort of the action for me. There was only one real action sequence in this book, and it was a doozy. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You had to wait a long time for it. It was well written. It was very well put together. But to get there, you had to go through many scenes. One in particular was about a page and a half with a footnote. And Ben, what was that footnote about?
Well, Ben, that was about the type of salad dressing that James Bond uses, and there's an entire footnote with a recipe, which I plan on trying out sometime, about what goes into that dressing and how to make it.
So, Bond is also full of culinary mysteries.
Yep.
There is also a scene where it's probably 2 paragraphs, where he describes the exact manner in which he wants his martini made. Which, I like knowing that, but again, it seemed just a little too Bond. Like, great Bondness, but, there wasn't a car chase.
No.
The cool gadgets were shaving cream, shaving soap, powder. That was also a knockout powder.
Yeah.
That wasn't even used in a covert way. It was sort of force-fed when it was used.
Yeah.
Ladies definitely threw themselves at Bond in very fade-to-black manners. So that was very Bond. But there wasn't a lot of action. There wasn't a car chase. All of the times I thought something was going to happen, it didn't.
Yeah, it's funny. This book is kind of written in a spare, pulpy way.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just not a lot of pulp in there.
No.
Which I would have liked to see a little bit more of.
Yeah, I wanted to see James Bond drive a car up a set of stairs to avoid hordes of giant men with jagged teeth.
Yeah.
And that's just me, that's what I expect from my Bonds.
Yeah.
A running, chasing scene, some sort of tension, and that's what this book really lacked for me. There was no tension in the book anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Even when there was danger, it seemed clipped. Much like Bond.
James Bond.
Yeah, so there was a highlight for me in this book.
Absolutely. And so this takes place right around the middle of the book, and Bond is about to single-handedly force a retreat. Maybe not single-handedly, but
he's in charge.
He's in charge. He comes up with the plan, even though he's undercover as a journalist. He is going to tell these troops how to make the opposing forces retreat. And the guy that he's talking to, he talks about confusion, and he says that the principle being that in a battle, confusion can be as important as an extra regiment. And the other guy says, "Who said that? The Duke of Wellington?" And Bond says, "I did, actually."
That does it for me. Who can quote themselves? Bond. James Bond. Probably the only person that can quote themselves in the history of the world.
Yep.
And those parts were just so beautiful, but there were a lot of pages to wade through of the hotel and what he was wearing and the meals that he ate and what he was drinking and what he was smoking, and it was just to me, this Bond was Roger Moore in the late stages of the Roger Moore movies, where he just sort of wanted to be Bond, but not really do the Bond.
Relax.
Yeah, kind of, I'm Bond, you know it. Let's just go through the motions and get this over with.
Yeah. He's going to save the day. We know it.
He always does.
He always does.
Oh, that Bond. There was a wonderful judo chop.
There was,
which I really enjoyed, and again, it was almost self-indulgent when it was written about. It was very with a judo strike to the neck. Bond took the assailant down with one strike.
Yeah.
And again, I really liked that, but then I wanted him to turn around and see a bunch more guys and have to do something.
Yeah. Just judo top all them too.
Yeah, which would have been amazing, but it did not happen.
I would say that my favorite scene is probably the one that you mentioned before, where he takes out the mansion full of bodyguards. It's just a very well-written scene. The geography is fantastic. You kind of get the sense of where everybody is and what's going on, and it escalates to a perfect kind of James Bond, absurd James Bond moment. It's very well written, very, very shocking.
It is very shocking, very gritty. One might even say savage.
Yep, I would agree.
Yeah, and I mean, James Bond was going for revenge, and he got revenge.
Yep. So, Ben, would you recommend reading this book?
I would recommend this book to fans of James Bond books.
Yep.
I don't know if I would recommend this book to fans of James Bond movies.
I would agree.
So that's where I come down on Solo by William Boyd.
Okay.
So we're gonna talk about something else here real quick.
Okay.
Ben, what have you been reading other than Solo? Do you want to give us a quick little rundown of other books?
Absolutely. Well, I, having just started here at the library as the youth services librarian, I've been reading a lot of young adult and children's literature. And I would say that one of my favorites is actually a graphic novel, and it's called Dogs of War. And it's split into 3 stories. This is by Sheila Keenan and Nathan Fox. It's split into 3 stories, and it's just about 3 dogs and their owners during various wars.
That could be quite powerful.
It's really good, and the art is fantastic, and I would recommend it to everybody. It's a great story for any age. Great stories for any age.
Well, Ben,
what have you been reading?
I've been reading the Last Policeman series by Ben Winters. I just finished it up. It's a 3-book set. They are somewhat noir mysteries set in Concord, New Hampshire. For all you listening in Concord, I'm sorry, but it is one of the most boring places I have ever been. The premise of these novels is that an asteroid is coming and it's going to destroy all life on Earth, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. But one man, Henry Pallas, doesn't quit. He is a detective, and he stays detecting. And that's what the books are about. And it's a really interesting juxtaposition between the actual mysteries and then the societal breakdown and how truly sad that everything is. Everything becomes sad. You know, your last cup of good coffee. Like, it's morbid that way. But it's also beautiful. So, that's what I've been reading.
It sounds really good. I know I'm going to read it.
I think I'm going to read about some dogs and war as well.
I hope you do.
I think I will. So I'm gonna tease a little bit here about what we're going to be doing next month on Ben Reading. Next month, November, is Noir November. Mm-hmm. And we would like you to pick what noir book for us to read. We have provided you a link to a survey in which you can decide the Ben's fate, and we will review whatever book that you choose. In the meantime, because we need content for the next
installment
of Ben Reading, we have decided to read The Shining. I will be reading The Shining, and Ben will be reading Dr. Sleep.
Neither of us have read either of these. Dr. Sleep is actually the sequel to The Shining. So I think a lot of it is just going to be us kind of explaining what's happening to each other.
And it's
asking each other questions.
Going to be a scary good time. I had to, I'm sorry. So we want to thank you for tuning in to Ben Reading, and we hope that you enjoyed yourself. If you want to contact us, you can reach us at benthelibrarian@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. You can leave comments on this YouTube channel, and you can just figure out a way to track down the Bens at the Rockport Public Library.
And that link to the survey, that'll be at the bottom of the Ben Readin library page?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
That's where it'll be.
All right.
So, thank you for Ben Reading, and we hope that you had a good time.
Thanks for listening, everybody.